Most Americans consider themselves as fairly knowledgeable about their country's history. They could probably tell you that Abe Lincoln was the 16th president, or that Teddy Roosevelt was a proud trust buster, or at the very least, that we've been around since 1776 and formally so since 1789. But when you peek beyond the purview of history textbooks, it turns out there's a lot that they don't teach you in class. American history is loaded with odd facts and fascinating tidbits, all of which the average American probably doesn't know. George Washington wasn't the first president of the United States who lived in the White House, but John Adams and his wife Abigail. While Washington did oversee the construction of the house, he never lived in it. It began being built in 1792 and wasn't inhabited until 1800. Since Adams, each president who has resided in the White House has made their own changes and additions. After all, they lived there. Statistically speaking, no job in the United States of America is more deadly than that of the president. Think about it. 46 men have held the title. 4 of those men were assassinated in office: Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, James A. Garfield, and William McKinley, while 4 died of natural causes: William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, Warren Harding, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That's a rate of almost 18%, or nearly 1 out of 5 who died on the job. Would you apply for a job with those kind of stats? I bet your answer is no. 4th of July wasn't. July 2nd was the day that Congress voted to free us from British rule. However, the 4th of July is when John Hancock wrote the first signature on the Declaration of Independence in order to spread the word of the vote. 56 men signed the document that announced intended independence from British rule. And after the adoption of the Declaration of Independence, the word obviously needed to be spread. The reproduction of this text was overseen by the Committee of Five: Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert R. Livingston. While hundreds of copies were made, only 26 survive today. Most can be found in museums and libraries. However, 3 are privately owned. It sounds crazy, but this is true, according to the Environmental Protection Agency's latest figures. When you take into account America's population, that means that around 1.4 billion pounds of trash gets thrown out in the United States every single day. This makes a nation of some of the most wasteful people on the entire planet. Move aside, humans. Sorry, we couldn't help ourselves. The cows are here to stay. According to Vox, Idaho, Iowa, Kansas, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and Wyoming have less humans than they do cattle. In these states combined, there are 32,489,391 cows. That's more than 1/3 of America's total cow population. The 16th president was a tall 6 feet 4 inches, or 193 centimeters. Our smallest president to hold office was James Madison. The 4th president, whose term was served from 1809 to 1817, stood 5 feet and 4 inches tall, or 163 centimeters. He also weighed less than 100 pounds. Ronald Reagan, the former Hollywood star and governor of California, and our 40th president, took office at 69 and served 2 full terms, from 1981 to 1989, stepping down just a few weeks shy of his 78th birthday. The Statue of Liberty, which adorns pretty much every bit of tourist memorabilia you can purchase in the Big Apple, is actually not located in New York City at all. It's technically in Jersey City, New Jersey. Who knew? The copper statue was a gift from France to the United States in October 1886. We love our pie, enough that we collectively consume 100 acres of pizza every single day. Annually, around 300 billion pizzas are sold in the good old USA. Not only that, but a reported 93% of Americans have eaten pizza within the past month. The biggest spike in delivery sales of pizza occurs around the Super Bowl. Can't get more American than that. Atlantic City has the world's longest boardwalk. Built in 1870, it was also the first boardwalk in the United States. Its purpose was to limit the amount of sand beachgoers took with them into hotel lobbies as well as the train. Today, it is a stretch of 4.5 miles long and home to casinos, hotels, restaurants, and more. The country's capital wasn't always Washington, D.C. As stipulated by the Residence Act, Philly was made to be the temporary capital of the newly created United States of America between 1790 and 1800, while Washington, D.C. was being built. Today, you can still find many famous pieces of early U.S. history through the city of Philadelphia. The United States debt per person is $92,000. Here are some more, probably related stats. Approximately 48% of all Americans are currently either considered to be low income or are living in poverty. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York estimates that 167,000 Americans have more than $200,000 in student loan debt. The unemployment rate is currently 3.5%, according to the most recent figures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. While everyone knows the story of Revere's famous ride, in which he was said to have warned colonial militia of the approaching enemy by yelling, "The British are coming!" there are plenty of holes in the story. According to History.com, the operation was meant to be quiet and stealthy, since British troops were hiding out in the Massachusetts countryside. Also, colonial Americans still considered themselves to be British. To be yelling about an impending invasion would be anything but stealthy. You've likely heard about how crazy some of the law enforcement of prohibition laws could be, but it turns out the U.S. government literally poisoned alcohol in its effort to discourage drinking. When people continued to consume alcohol despite its banning, law officials got frustrated and decided to try a different kind of deterrent: death. They ordered the poisoning of industrial alcohols manufactured in the U.S., which were products regularly stolen bootleggers. By the end of Prohibition in 1933, the federal poisoning program is estimated to have killed at least 10,000 people. His name? Samuel Wilson, a meatpacker in Troy, New York, who fought in the American Revolution. He later became the official meat inspector for the Northern Army in the War of 1812. Wilson was given the nickname Uncle Sam for his good nature. According to HuffPost, when he started providing and inspecting meat for the troops during the War of 1812, the soldiers from Troy would joke that the initials U.S. label on the barrels actually stood for Uncle Sam. This idea was eventually expanded to all United States military items with U.S., and that's how Uncle Sam came to be. Talk about a snub. It wasn't until 1953 that Ohio Congressman George H. Bender brought a bill to the U.S. Congress, asking them to retroactively admit his state into the United States of America. That's why, despite the bill being passed in the 50s, Ohio's official founding date is 1803. So what happened? Thomas Jefferson had approved the territory that would become Ohio more than a century before. However, due to an accidental oversight, Ohio had never been formally admitted. Oops. Alaska is the largest state in the United States and was sold for a total of $7.2 million, which amounts to about 2 cents per acre. The state was purchased in 1867. In the 50 years that followed, America made their money back for the $7.2 million, more than 100 times over. Talk about a quality buy. Most Americans spend less than 5 years at each job. Why? It's because American employees are likely to leave their jobs for other companies in search of better benefits and higher salaries. Americans would rather get back on the market than stick it out for the long haul and hope for the best. In fact, per BLS figures, the typical baby boomer has held 10 jobs between the ages of 18 and 42. More people live in New York City than in most states. Talk about one big apple. New York City is home to 8.5 million people, more than 40 out of 50 of the states in America. This figure is especially crazy considering how New York City is geographically tiny, just over 300 square miles.